Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday evening to you all. Hope you guys have had a great day and a great start to your work week. Some of y'all are just starting your work week if you had yesterday off. But I hope you've enjoyed your last day of May as we enter a new month tomorrow, June 1st. I really want to say I appreciate the support over the first 5 months of the year. And the growth has really meant a lot to me. It's really changed my life. So I want to start off by telling you all how much I appreciate you guys. But in this evening's video, we're going to discuss the tropics like we did yesterday evening. Confidence is doing nothing but increasing that we're going to have some kind of development in the southeast areas of the Gulf of Mexico, as what's left over from Agatha that made landfall on the Pacific side of Central America, Mexico, which, by the way, packed a big-time punch. A pretty known storm chaser chased that down there, and the video was pretty wild from the basically the eye wall that slammed areas of Mexico. So what's left over of that's going to meander into the Atlantic side, and this has a chance to develop and even impact areas of the U.S., really mainly being Florida. But we're going to see how this develops. What we're going to do is we're going to roll through all the models, and then we're going to talk about what's driving this, the dynamics that's driving this, the steering currents, what's strengthening, things like that. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. May has been a pretty slow month, but I was kind of expecting this time frame to be pretty slow as we enter summer. But appreciate people who continue to tune in regardless, and it really means a lot. So if you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it. I normally do in the mornings. I have not been able to answer any comments from this morning's videos. It was a very busy day at work, so I apologize for that. I'll try to get to them in the morning, so if I missed any questions, I do apologize for that. But let's get rolling here. So the National Hurricane Center right now, and this could upgrade here at 8 p.m., the 8 p.m. update. This is the 2 p.m. update. When there's not really a known storm out there, it updates every 6 hours or so. So right now, you have a 70% chance of development in this region of southeast, basically southeast areas of the Gulf of Mexico, and then a very small area of the Western Caribbean. So pretty much, in a nutshell, something is likely going to develop here. And, there's basically a 70% chance of a tropical depression. For it to be a named storm, it needs to become a tropical storm. So that's what we look for it to take our first named storm, which would be Alex on the Atlantic side. Had a question like, why would it be Alex if we've already had a named storm with an A? Well, the Eastern Pacific has its own set of hurricane names or tropical storm names. The Atlantic has its own set. So that's why this is a whole nother alphabet we're starting here. So pretty strong chances of something developing right here. And really, it's because of this. What's left over of Agatha, you got this vortice here, this spin left over, and then this thing has basically just been absolutely ripped apart over the last 24 hours. And you got a little spin right here, you got a spin right here. We're going to talk about that too. It gets a little bit scientific, but I feel like it's important. I don't want to come up here and just show y'all guys models and then scoot on out. I want to show you what's really bringing this together and show you my knowledge on this and really how this can unfold. So let's take a look at the European. Then we'll take a look at the GFS. We're not really going to look at the Icon and the Canadian model. No point. Let's just focus on the two biggest models here, GFS and the European. So let's start this off by overnight Thursday into Friday morning. Low pressure finally begins to kind of get into its own off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. The steering currents are very weak due to weak ridging, and there's nothing really, no real flow influencing the steering currents of what's going on down here in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. So it kind of meanders. It really moves very slowly, tracks very slowly northeast, but you just got it's still basically an above 1,000 millibar low pressure, meaning this is a pretty weak low pressure. At this point, it's probably just a tropical depression as we're getting into Friday afternoon. But as it slowly begins to scoot northeast or eastward, it could strengthen, especially as it starts to kind of encounter a different environment, pick up a little bit of speed, and maybe enter a little bit more warm waters in this area. Shear and dry air is going to be absolutely wreaking havoc on this part of the storm right here. So it's going to be a half a cane or half a tropical storm or a half a depression, meaning all the convection, all the moisture is going to be, regardless of what this is, on the east side of this low pressure. But at this point, real early in the morning, Saturday morning, you have a strengthening, potentially a slowly strengthening low pressure, makes landfall around Saturday morning on the southwest coast of Florida, brings a lot of heavy rain, gets off the peninsula of Florida, gets on the east side, and begins to strengthen a little bit quicker, maybe with the interaction of the front that's going to be digging into the eastern U.S. and also the Gulf Stream, where it has a area of well above 80-degree water that's going to be shooting through this region right here. Then I really think there's a much more higher confidence that this could take the first name of the hurricane list if it does not off the west coast of Florida, which I think has a pretty good chance to do so also. But this could really strengthen somewhat off the coast of the southeast and become maybe a moderate to strong tropical storm, maybe even a brief chance to become a hurricane. But then it moves on off the coast. It gets very close to the Outer Banks and areas of the far eastern coastal regions of North Carolina. But take this with a grain of salt. This is just one run, but it's something we need to watch for you folks in the far eastern areas of the Outer Banks, especially how bad y'all are off with flooding, how easily y'all flood there in the Outer Banks. This moves on off the coast. It's done with. GFS, a little bit different. It did scoot north, where it's been the most southern solution. It jogged a little bit north on the latest GFS, but same thing. We're starting off Friday afternoon. Low pressure begins to really develop and consolidate here a little bit slower than the European. I'll show you why here in a second. It starts to hit far southern areas and the Key West areas of Florida. Not near as north as the Euro, but it hits the southern tip of Florida as probably a tropical storm. Rides over the southern tip of Florida, brings a lot of rain to the Bahamas, and then gets on off the coast, and it doesn't ride close to the southeast coast at all. It just scoots due east pretty much and weakens pretty quickly. So totally different in the mid to long range than the European is as far as what it's going to do off the coast of the southeast for sure. So what you're looking at here is the percent chance of a tropical depression between now and Sunday morning. It's a pretty high chance that some kind of depression is going to form here. Remember, a depression is not a storm. So a tropical storm is definitely something totally different than a tropical depression. It goes tropical depression, tropical storm. You really need a 40-mile-per-hour storm for it to be classified as a tropical storm. And then it goes a little bit higher, and then you hit hurricane, which would be at 75 miles per hour, which that would be classified as a Category 1 hurricane. So you need to be strengthened into a 40-mile-per-hour storm for it to be labeled Tropical Storm Alex. And it will have a chance in this region right here. So this will scoot across the peninsula of Florida, and then we'll have even higher chance to develop off the coast of eastern Florida, potentially, per the latest EPS ensembles. Now, one thing we can look at here is the chances of a tropical storm, per the latest. And, between now and Sunday morning, let's just do now, between now and Saturday morning, there is about a 40 to 50% chance of a tropical storm hitting the peninsula of Florida. So, there's definitely a chance for this to make landfall on the western side of Florida as a tropical storm. So here's the tracks per the latest European ensembles, the EPS ensembles, and all of them that do develop a low pressure, which most do, has it colliding into Florida. So they all like the idea of this hitting Florida, then moving on off the coast of the eastern U.S. There's another way you can look at it, and this is Tropical Tidbits. It basically shows us the European ensembles, and it basically shows little individual low pressures as they move. The signal is very strong. All these little numbers, which are probably kind of difficult to see on your screen, you see a 97. That stands for a 997 low pressure, which is, getting close, if not a tropical storm status. Then you have a 03, which stands for 1,003 millibar low pressure. So that's what these little numbers stand for. I know that's a little harder to understand, but ensembles make up a group of runs thrown together to create one run, to create a mean. And in this case, it shows all the members put together. So the signal is strong, colliding right into Florida, then potentially strengthening even more off the coast of the southeast. The GEFS ensembles, which are the ensembles for the GFS, shows a more kind of broadened signal here, and nothing is really consolidated, and it's kind of just all over the place. It really is. So one thing we're going to look at here is vortices. Now, this is very important, especially between now and probably the next 48 hours. So we'll start this off around Thursday afternoon. One thing you'll note is you have this big CAG, Central American Gyrum here, and it's basically the leftover energy from what happened with Agatha. Finally, just very, very slowly scoots across this area of Central America. So You see the isobars right here, which are tightened, right? So we keep this rolling here, and in general, at first, you have maybe a couple competing vortices right in here, a little bit right here, a little bit right here. But in general, these vortices come together very quickly to create a bigger storm right in here. And of course, this storm gets its act together quicker. It's probably going to be stronger, and it's probably going to pull a little bit more north. And as it does, that's why you have a more aggressive scenario for the euro. Now, that doesn't probably make a whole lot of sense, but this will probably make it make a little bit more sense. This is the GFS for tomorrow evening, right? So you have a vortice right here, a vortice right here. Vortice meaning you see the more vibrant orange or red colors. That is individual spin-ups, which you actually can see it on satellite visibility right here. See a little spin-up right here, a little spin-up right here. So you're already starting to see individual little spin-ups right here. So what do these do? Well, they kind of dance around each other, not really around each other, but kind of beside each other for a while on both sides of the Yucatan Peninsula. And we're getting into Thursday night. We're getting into Friday morning, Friday afternoon. And you still just have two areas, one area right here, one area right here. So the GFS lags with it finally getting together. And finally, one dominant vortice says, okay, I'm going to take this under my own belt and be dominant right here and then strengthen on my own, and it branches away from this, but it takes too long for that to really happen. I know I'm explaining it very odd and non-weather-like, but that's kind of what's going on. This one vortice finally just branches off and says, okay, you know, I don't have time for you to mess around. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to strengthen, and I'm going to become a tropical storm and hit the southern tip of Florida overnight Friday into Saturday morning, and then it moves on and becomes dominant. And that's what it does. So in general, the European gets together very quickly, becomes its own identity, scoots across the southeast Gulf of Mexico, and then collides into Florida. So what's going on with the steering currents? Well, in general, this orange right here, this red right here is more stronger ridging. But this orange is just a weak steering pattern in general, just weak ridging. Well, you got a little bit of troughing showing up over the eastern U.S. This will try to pick this up, speed up basically the forward momentum, and it starts to speed up and pick up a little bit more speed northeast due to the fact that it's kind of getting pushed or influenced by the trough. And as it does, it finally picks up speed and gets lost in the current, and then it heads on out into the North Atlantic. So that's kind of what's steering it. And then one thing you'll notice as this trough pushes down, it'll introduce some shear and dry air, which is this brown you're seeing. The green is more moist air, you know, basically air that you can wear. And you'll notice the low pressures here, and it doesn't have a nice moisture bubble around it. It has all this green on one side of it and then a bunch of brown on this side of it. So it's eating up all the convection on the west side of this low pressure, which is preventing significant strengthening. You know, I don't even think any significant strengthening would happen regardless, just due to the fact that it's not like you have waters in the Gulf of Mexico right now that are in the upper 80s or anything like that. But in general, this is preventing any kind of decent strengthening before landfall, even though you have warm waters in this area. So you just got it kind of a half a system, and it's going to be a very messy system, but could be a lot of rain for Florida in the beginning of the storm. It really could. So we'll continue to watch that and how that unfolds. But in general, in Florida, per the latest European run, if you live anywhere from Jacksonville points south, Orlando definitely points south, Tampa Bay, you guys, especially down here in Miami, if the European was correct, several inches of rain, anywhere from 2 to as much as 5 or 6 inches of rain. But you turn around and you look at the GFS, it's a lot different, right? At this same time frame, no rain for this area of north central areas of Florida. All the rain stays way down here in Key West and areas of Miami. So that's a pretty big difference as far as rainfall between two main global operational runs. So, but that's all I got, guys. We'll continue to figure this out. I'm excited to talk about the tropics, and I don't think this is going to be a major event, but the rainfall could be significant as parts of Florida has already seen a lot of rain over the last several days. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to y'all in the morning.